Peace, family. I'm Chi Vital, also known as Chidiki, and I am back with another tool for your toolkits. Tonight, I'm going to be sharing with you some very important tips in regards to how to feed your warrior ancestors. This topic is relatively fresh for this channel because the information I'm going to give to you and the way I'm going to deliver it is really for those of you who have no clue. And a lot of times we think we know something, and once we start listening, we always find that there was something missing. We are living in a time where the warrior spirit is absolutely necessary. And we have spent a lot of time venerating the ancestor realm, right? The ancestors in this particular realm without much knowledge of how to now guide them when it comes to a time of battle, a time of needing to protect yourself, a time of needing to command an army. And there has been a lot of emphasis on clearing the way, cleaning up the energy, and not much discussion amongst our people on where do the gangsters fit in, right? Culturally, our gangsters are also the people who we love dearly. At large, society wise, they are the outcast, but who are you? Who are you to your family, right? These outcasts, and it's important that I'm very specific, the outcasts. These outcasts are the types of individuals that in their lifetime, they chose a life of fearlessness. They have chosen a life, even at times, of selfishness. There are a few things that I want to define for ourselves that are necessary in times of needing to protect ourselves and breaking through the consistent barriers that are placed upon us by negative thinking, by jealousy, by envy, by people faking around us, by people belittling us. And you know what? Not just other people, but the kind of conversations that include negative self talk, feeling insecure, things like not taking the risks that are necessary in order for you to break certain habits or to break into new circles that are required for you to live the new life that you've been fighting so hard for. People ask, how do I feed my ancestors? And I've given plenty of tips in how to feed your ancestors, starting with the energy. So when you're ready for me to break down this this type of ancestor that you want to feed, and we have to define feeding them, what that means, press 1 in the chat so that I can begin just from the top and what that looks like. So for those of you who are now realizing that ancestral reverence or ancestral worship, let me look up the word worship and see if I want to use it. Because another thing that's going to be relevant to your worship, the feeling of expression of reverence, adoration. Okay. So yeah, let's call it worship. Call it what it is. There's this adoration, there's this reverence, obviously, because you're going to take your time to be calling on this person's spirit. And we don't pick up the phone to call people that we don't want to have a conversation with. We don't pick up the phone to call people that we'd rather ignore. And you're doing the calling, so this better be some form of worship, right? This is not a begging. This is not a worship on your knees. This is not a prayer. I want to be very, very clear that the energies that we're talking about feeding are our warriors. So put things into context. Because right now in 2023, it's not too many of us experiencing in real time like a battle, right? I don't look out my window and there's no soldiers on the street with their AK-47s, right? So we don't necessarily see here in the physical everyone open, bearing arms with their machetes or their spears, because a lot of times we use the word warriors and that comes to mind. When I say warriors, does that come to mind for you? Be honest. In the dark arts, I want to speak to this part because one of the more popular practices of the dark arts comes from the darker side of Santeria, which is called Palo Mayombe, right? It gets a very dark, or I don't want to say dark, gets a negative rap because the energies that are being worked with come into play for these particular human desires and events that we experience here on earth regularly. Okay? The energies are tied to the earth. So the reason why they get a lot of bad rap is because, one, there are a lot of people who go into that, and the true practitioners of it are no longer around on this planet, or they don't really give access to people to reach them. They are very particular. That, for you all who are studying the occult, should already set off a light bulb that perhaps the lack of access to something is because it has so much power in it that it will be dangerous for those who are not properly trained in practicing it. Because the things that we need to do to protect ourselves or to live the life that we will to live, when we start manipulating energies based off of sometimes just our fickle emotions as human beings, if we don't have the proper training and we have access to that power to say, well, I don't like him or her, so I'm going to cook them. Or I want this particular dude, so I'm going to break him up with this individual. We are built in such a way that, if not properly trained, the emotions can end up putting us into a whirlspin of constantly trying to get immediate gratification. So I'm putting this part out there because, one, Palo is very familiar to most of the people in my audience. And two, not that I'm going to give you any Palo secrets, right? I'm going to give you some real straight up practices that you can do now without being a priest or a priestess and contacting and feeding your warrior spirits. But I want to speak to this because I want you to understand that when you start having conversations with former criminals, with real life gangsters, with energies who don't abide by the quote unquote, like, turn the other cheek, try to go high and live above the riffraff, but they're more so an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, right? And not we all go blind, but like, I'd rather be blind in an eye and know that you don't have yours no more. You got one of mine, I got two of yours. When you get into dealing with these energies, they come in absolute. They're not coming to hear your request, receive it, and then go take care of business. And then you want to feel bad about it later and have to try to reel them back. One, that shows a sign of weakness on your part, which lets that spirit know that they can do certain things that'll keep you constantly needing them. And you end up in a bit of chaos that you yourself can't get yourself out of. Because they didn't come here to even live a life of that love and light. If you're calling on them, you're calling on them because you recognize the balance of what they bring to this earth. So the same way that if you are from the hood, right, and you go and you hang out at the trap house, if you left your home where it's like you playing meditation music, it smells nice, you done smudged it out, frankincense and all kind of crystals and everything is like glistening, right? If you go and hang out in the hood, you at the trap house, and then you make a visit to the cemetery to do some of your work, what you picked up there is not the same thing that you want to bring home and sleep with, because the two are not in the same vibration, but they both have their value and their places. This kind of relationship with the two energetics is what you're going to need to be fully grounded in. So when you get to calling these energies, you understand the time you're on when you're working with them and the time you need to be on when you're not working with them. And you have to stand strong energetically in order to continue to keep that line very clear. So there's going to be a particular cleansing ritual that you will need to do after you get busy. Same way you get busy in the streets, right? You want to take your gloves off, wash your hands, make sure like clean yourself of it and close it out. It's not an energy you just leave lingering unless you're in a present and active battle. And that is why you have to be very clear when it comes to black magic, because it's so potent. It's not necessary to live in it in that way. When it comes to war, you will exhaust yourself because it requires a lot of chi. Make sense so far? So I want the point to be very clear that you don't have to say, I gotta be one or the other in order to be powerful. However, when you are in a particular energy, you are in that energy. Okay? When you are in the other energy, you are in that energy. And people will know it. But whatever you need to do as far as your focus and setting really strong boundaries while you're in the midst of meeting with your warriors, aka your gangsters, that's the energetic you're in. The only thing that's going to keep you from snapping on people who didn't come for that smoke is your meditative practices and some of your energetic practices physically, working out, doing your yoga, doing your qigong, going for a swim. These types of things, they're active where you're physically moving your body and keeping your channels open so that when you are chanting, when you are praying, when you are communing with these spirits, that you have a chi building practice, because it's going to be a lot of fire energy that you're working with. It's going to have a lot of cutting energy that you're dealing with. The energy that you're dealing with is in the bones. Okay? And if your chi is not up, you may experience feeling depletion in these areas. Like you may not feel as sexual because your fire is being utilized for war. You may feel some achiness in your joints or in your teeth because the bones, the marrow is being pulled on to recreate certain circumstances. Okay? Things around you may not work the way you want them. The communication from people may even come at you in a certain way to spark you to feel that frustration, that irritation, that aggression, so that you can continue to burn in that way. Your meditative practices help you to stay grounded in knowing that this person that is frustrating you is only a product of the energy that you're working with in the moment, and you need to take that energy and give it back to the spirit. That's all you doing. You channeling all the things that come around you, and you got to be a masterful fire bender in that regard. Does that make sense how I'm putting it together so far? So I'm going to speak to a couple of genres or cultures. Here we go. Cultures. Culturally, tobacco across the board is going to be a main medium of communication with warrior spirits. Tobacco. Now, there's a difference between ceremonial tobacco, which is literally like real tobacco, no other chemicals around, right? Not processed, hand rolled, available in spiritual shops where they cater to Palo or indigenous rights, Mexican rights, Mesoamerica, Central America, Brazil, like real tobacco, okay? Now, your bro or your goons that you grew up with, they probably didn't smoke that, right? They probably had some of these or some Newports. The Newports are downstairs, okay? It's important when you start working that you understand that these types of things are very powerful in your communication. What's the other thing? What's the other thing that your goons sit around and reason with? Put it in the chat. Let me see if y'all are following what y'all already know that is going to be powerful for you. What's another herb? What's another herb, y'all? Thank you. You see it? Good. This is another herb and gateway for you to be communing with your warrior spirits. Why do I say that? Right? It's obvious. You go into hanging out with your homies and you set up a table for those of them who have passed away. First and foremost, in practicing, I want you to also have mugwort. I don't have my baggie of mugwort. Why do I want mugwort? Mugwort is going to clear the space, and it's a cutting herb. It clears the space and it protects you when you travel astrally. You're going to be traveling astrally, means your physical body stays right here and your consciousness goes out to meet and greet these gangsters that you're calling on. Add some of that mugwort to your roll up and speak your intentions as you're rolling it up, knowing that this is not for your recreational use. This is for your communing with your gangsters. Another note, right? With the tobacco, even if you have your cigarettes, you will note that the older the spirits you know that are part of your family of gangsters, they used to roll their own tobacco. Get you some loose tobacco and roll it up. The more you are manipulating the items that you are going to communicate with and you're speaking your intentions on before you light them, is the more powerful the connection is going to be. Ashe, comfrey as well. Here's the thing. If you really have been a part of the streets, right? What do you always have when we get together and we like, yo, war room time? We got some shit to handle. Okay? You got your dark liquor. You got your overproof. I'm a Jamaican. We gonna have to have us some of this. Okay? This is a very Jamaican item. White rum. But your dark liquor, your yak, your Hennessy, your Remy. Okay? You are communing with gangsters. Do not just only tutu them. Okay? Yes, we want water because water is a medium for spirits. Okay, to travel. But you're not going to serve them a glass of water. Another thing that happens with alcohol, and when you pour libations with alcohol, is that it wakes up the spirits to be very talkative. To be very talkative. Write that in your notes. When you use the liquor opens up the tongue for them to speak very freely. Okay? And this is why you not only put it down, but you also have a sip with them. It is disrespectful and very suspect to meet with a gangster and pour them a drink and you don't have a drink as well. These are subtleties that you must understand when dealing with the spirits that show up in this type of energetic. Okay? Does that make sense? All right. Another thing, these are subtleties that I want you to understand. Meeting with your gangsters is not a public affair. Understand that when you are going to go sit with the homies, if whoever's with you is not part of the homies, they should not be there. I'm going to say that again. Because when you go to the back of the restaurant to go meet with the bosses, it's not a family dinner like how everyone else is out there with their family. This is for the members only. The leather jackets and the bombers, the trenches, they go to the back. And everybody else sits in the front. So more times when you're having these meetings and you're going to begin the process of building a conversation and a relationship that you can trust. This ain't about them, because you can't do anything to them, because you couldn't do anything to them when there was a gangster living on this earth. You got to be able to trust them by showing that you're worthy and you can handle the energy. That's one of the main reasons why certain people don't get into certain houses where they are really practicing the real deal black magic or the real deal indigenous native magic. Is because if you can't handle it, you're not welcome. You might not have bad intentions, but your spirit might not have enough chi. Or you might have too much energy, but not enough discipline. Because it's really real when it gets into that field. So more times than others, this is going to be a very solo dolo practice. This is not going to be where you seance with your children. Okay? And I say this because a lot of the moms, if you haven't gotten into this practice yet, you want to, like a lioness would do, understand the territory and what comes with it before you put your children in the mix. Because these energies, like I said, don't come with the same breaks, like moral breaks on how they move. And before you introduce this energy, because it's not really an energy that you introduce to people like that, right? We don't just invite our killers over and go, hey, I just wanted to introduce my goons to you. Yeah, this is, this is JJ, the shooter, and this is Leroy, cutthroat. No, we don't do that. Our goons we keep for a very private times, and we sit with them when we need to have things done in secret. Okay? In secret. Not the toxic, westernized, secret, hush, it's so scary, and these are bad people. No, in secret, like the same way when people coming at you and doing all kind of foolery behind your back, or other people's spirits have some type of issue with you because they crying over their altars about they can't take how you're making success, and all of their customers are coming to you, and so their spirits go about their business to go and do what they got to do to mess things up for you because this person is not paying attention to what they're saying or doing. These altars are alive. These spirits are listening. And if they for you, they will work on your behalf, even if you don't set up a whole fancy ceremony. Like, that's the way these earthly spirits or muertos move. They're like your invisible squad. They're not waiting for you to say, oh, go slap Sally because Sally disrespecting me. No, they heard about Sally disrespecting you and they went and slapped her ass. And you like, oh, snap. Did you hear what happened to Sally? So this is why I want you to understand the solo dolo meaning. Okay? Here's one of the important tools that I want you to have. Now, if you don't have this, everybody has like flour, right? But cascarilla is pretty easy to find. Okay? See that? It's like a white powder, right? Traditionally, it's also like can be crushed, eggshell and limestone. Okay? You want to use this to designate the area where you're creating the members only space for your meditation. Designating the area, spirits respond very well to where you tell them you're calling them to. And this is where shapes, right? signs, geometry is very important in directing energy. Circling the space that you're going to be in and identifying it as where you're going to commune with the spirit is important, because you're working with an energy that is very potent. And by creating this line, this circle around you, you compact that energy in the same way that you get very clear about why you're even bringing them into this space. Okay? Names, pictures of folks, creating some type of vessel to continue to bring this person or this energy present. I think that is another piece that I will get into once you understand some of the elements that you should absolutely have present. So another thing, we're dealing with chemicals, right? So what are some of the tools that a gangster is going to need? They might need bullets. What makes the bullet so powerful? Gunpowder. They might need a knife or a cutlass. They might need some nails, some screws. What are these types of materials, right? Knives, bullets, nails, screws, daggers. These types of instruments, before they came to being, exist in a vibration. It is the slowing down of that vibration that brings it into form. So when they're present in your space and you're communicating with your warriors, they can take the energetic of that and use it for what they need to get done. So once you have those items available, right, and you are going to learn how to cultivate a listening ear for what it is that they may tell you they need. People asking me, how do I feed my ancestors? How do I feed my ancestors? How do I feed my warriors? I'm not going to do that individually for free with an individual, because it is a process of cultivating your Ache and your Ori to be able to communicate with these spirits that talk very easily once you give them attention and will tell you exactly what they want. So let me paint this picture for you, because there's more to this. Foods. You're not going to serve your gangsters steamed broccoli, lentils, and, you know what I'm saying, carrots. That ain't energetically it. So if you hearing that, that should let you know that you are not talking to one of your gangster warrior spirits. The types of foods that need to be present for these warrior ancestors need to be some meat, need to be some blood involved. And when there's no blood involved, it needs to be deep from the earth. Yams, okay? And not mashed potatoes, you know what I'm saying? Like that rough skinned yam, raw or roasted. You see what I'm saying? Like wild food. Like if I'm out in the bush and I got sticks and fire, I'm not out here trying to season things up. Okay? Them African yams. Hell yeah, Ayana. Okay? Steak. some beef, like you just go and get you some cut up beef, not ground beef. Mm-mm. Not your lean turkey meat. You're going to need some meat. And the next thing that I want to share with you, peppers. Pepper. Pepper has, remember I said fire, the chi of fire is very important. Adding pepper to any working when you are talking with your warriors is not only going to speak very loudly, but it also speeds up the manifestation. Okay? These are tools for your basket. You got your Tabasco. You got your overproof rum. You got your dark liquor. You got your weed, your mugwort, your comfrey, right? You have other bitter herbs like dandelion, right? You have your cascarilla. If you don't have cascarilla to create your barrier, use white flour. But trust me, these things are really easy to find, and you can get a bunch of them. Okay, at one time. Cascarilla is also known as efun. So I'm gonna just put it in here. Cascarilla, aka efun. Now, more importantly, I'm gonna stress again, it's not a family affair of your friends getting together. You know how like you see the witch circles where they're like, we're gonna call on the dark energies? Like, no. I want you to watch your favorite gangster movie and basically create that environment for you and who you're calling on. At best, right? Pardon me, not at best. It's not at best. This is included. If you have some red wine, not the sweet red wine, okay? Not the sweet red wine. You also want to have one thing that is non-alcoholic that is very, very potent and powerful in talking to your OGs is black coffee. No sugar, no cream. In fact, put a shot of the liquor in the coffee. Black coffee. Now, for your peppers, you got your scotch bonnets, you got your habaneros, you got your jalapenos. Habaneros and scotch bonnets, they so dangerous that if you are cutting them in the house, you need to tell everybody to get out. You need to wear gloves. It will burn through your skin. They're so potent that you don't have to slice them necessarily in order to cook with them. However, you also have your cayenne pepper. You have your like the real chili. Those items. These are items I want you to gather. I'm not telling you to go and put all of this shit in one basket and go, okay, now I want to call all of my dark warrior gangster spirits. Like, don't do that. You're doing too much. This is just an introduction of things you should begin to cultivate and collect a little bit of each and listen and remember your homie's life. The only time that you're going to have something that isn't like as hot might be, you know, for a fact that Deshaun loves a Coca-Cola, right? If you like a Coca-Cola, have the Coke and have the liquor. Don't mix them because the Coke is real sweet. And the Coke is designated now to this particular person. So that's not universal. You get what I'm saying? All right. So where does this also come into play? There's another pepper that my folks in the ATRs are familiar with, and it's called guinea pepper. The joint is hot. Once you feel you have cultivated a lot of clarity about what you want to talk to your folks about, there's palm oil, right? That's something to also have on deck. There's palm oil and it's guinea peppers. Palm oil makes things real slick, smooth. Think about it. The other day I was talking about going to fight. Traditionally, like what we say, oh, good, get your Vaseline. Put your Vaseline on. These spirits of the earth, they will eat that palm oil. But when you're speaking, palm oil on your tongue, make sure that when you're speaking, you speaking clearly and smoothly. If you add pepper to your tongue when you are praying to your gangsters, you're putting more ache, more heat, more fire on what you're saying to make it manifest quickly. So you be careful when you start increasing the potency of the words that come out of your mouth when you're talking to your gangsters, because bullets don't come back. They only go in one direction. So every order that you are giving to your warrior spirits after cultivating this level of centeredness, this groundedness, this I know exactly what I felt, what I experienced, clear of all the I'm trying to take the higher road, because at this point this is a nuisance. This is a problem. This is someone pushing past your boundaries. This is someone abusing you. We're not taking abuse. All right? And there's no real friends amongst criminals. This is why you got to keep your eyes open when you're having these conversations, especially if you have not done any kind of work like this before. Some of y'all, this is what I'm needing to tell y'all. Some of y'all have rather big families. Some of y'all not the only ones in your families that get busy spiritually when it's time to do so. For that reason, when you are going to do your work, one, y'all need to have some type of code for yourselves. Have a code for yourself and how you move. Because the last thing I would want to have you experience is your own family setting it off on you with your own family's spirits. Whoever that's for, you know what it is, and you need to make sure that it's very clear when you're working with whatever gangsters or criminals you've had as ancestors that you about to utilize that force of energy to get some things done on your behalf, what the code is, because you can set that up to be real clear. All right. What's the next thing? Before you get into this work, cleanse yourself. That way you're clear. You're not walking into your space already carrying other energies that are just looking for some work, because they are about that. They like the mix up. They like the mix up. I don't agree with all of the things that you might call your warrior spirits for, but I'm not here to judge you. I'm gonna give you the information, but I'm not here to judge you. But when you sit and understand that the spirits of the earth utilize real things that you can imagine you would need to get a job done, then when you get information from the other realm, it will make more sense. If you have an issue that needs to be tied, you need to provide the rope for it. You understand? Colors, red, black, very important when it comes to that, because it's the earth, it's the fire, is the ashes. When you finish making your petitions and you having your meeting with those spirits and you have ashes, save your ashes. Because at some point, those ashes will be very clutch in what you're doing to make an offering to get certain work done. Okay? Y'all have any questions for me? So you clean up, you do your work, you get dirty. It is important for you all to cleanse yourself afterwards. You need a cutting bath. You need things like Rua, Florida water, Efflume, cold water, coconut water, basil, mint, these types of things to clean you off. Why? Because you already, once you tapped in, you already are going to be feeling that energy moving with you, and you just need to keep yourself as clear as possible, crystal clear of what's going on. You don't want to be walking around and getting like hijacked by everybody wants to like pick a fight with you now, because they're picking up on this fighter energy that you're walking with. Does that make sense? You also are going to be in spaces where it's going to be very full of, like, if you had to go make a trip to the cemetery, these are places where the spirits just wandering around looking for somebody to follow home. Like, oh, hey, what up? Like, you get some energy. Let me see what you got. Let me see what you got in your refrigerator. Because some energy is like, you keep your kitchen dirty. I talked to you about that before. They'll come and eat as well. Okay? I'm looking at some of y'all questions. Came in late. What if you don't recall any gangster ancestors to call? So if you set up the environment, right? Set up the environment. For those of you who don't, like, you might have just had a really like fun, loving family. And here's another thing. If you don't have no beef, ain't no reason for you to call anybody to get jiggy with. The funny thing about spirit is that they are intelligent. And our people, indigenous wise, like, there's a level of intelligence that travels through our DNA. The problem with a lot of these occult sciences and practices becoming more public is that people just want to pick up on whatever they can get their hands into because they're interested or they're curious. They might not even really have a need for it. For example, like, for some of y'all who like, I'd like to check and see if I have a hex. If you ain't have a hex, there would be no reason for me to be like, just in case, like, let me give you this hex removal anyway. Like, no, because every type of thing that you get involved in makes this situation a little more colorful. And I'm answering that not to tell you, like, don't touch it. But if you don't know any ancestors that is about that life, then know why you want to get in contact with them. Now, if it's a matter of, well, I just want to have my warriors, are there any energies that you see and connect with, and when you see their names or you see their picture, you know what they represent, you feel some type of fire inside of you for times where you needed the courage, you needed to be fearless, you needed to be brave, you needed to be strong, and that turn that on inside of you. It could be a historical figure that you like, yo, every time I hear a story, I'm like, that's gangster and I need that energy. Put them in that circle and start having a conversation. Get to know some of the so-called bad guys, right? The gangsters or the rebellious ones historically, and call on them. Cultivate that relationship. You also, when you have these types of elements present, when you create the circle and you sit there and the intent is, I'd like to commune with any of the gangster spirits that would be willing to fight on my behalf, and you light a cigarette up, right? Boom. You got your lick, you take your sip, you do your libations, and you meditate. A name might come to you. Boom. Whatever reason you feel guided to do that, you might have a situation at work that's shaky, and you like, I got this situation that's shaky. You take your sip, and you start to feel looser. You start to speak. I'm not really sure how to move with it, and I'd like to maintain a certain level of decorum in my space here, but I think something shady is happening. And so now I'm sitting here because I want to commune with my personal goons and build up and cultivate a relationship with you all, so that when I need to get into this energy, we have a stronger bond. You will see a response from your candlelight. You will feel a response energetically. And you get a name that comes through. I already told y'all, you get a name, write it down, and keep a practice where you consistently go there, call that name, do the same thing. This is like if you have an autistic child, right? And I know none of the parents who have autistic children will be mad at this because I know it's a reality. I know parents, right? Consistent, don't change nothing up. The same shower you take before, the same circle you make, the same cigarette you light, you gotta knock. That's the other thing. We pour libations and we knock 3 times, right? Why? Because we need to let the spirits know, yo, I'm knocking on your door. Nobody is going to open the door for you if you don't knock. And you need to be loud. You either stomping 3 times, you're knocking 3 times, right? To acknowledge what you're doing, you opening up the conversation. Call that name. Keep it consistent. Sit there. You got your joint, like, and what's pretty consistent is like three pulls or whatever, and you ready to go, right? So call who you calling. I don't even smoke. personally. You understand? Like, no, but it's the energy. You call the energy. You let it rock out. Instead of your incense, you let your tobacco burn. You let the weed burn. You let that smoke burn. You are not being an asshole. You are very centered. You're very centered because it's a serious conversation. You sit up. You listen. If you can't hold that energy and you start, and you all over the place, turn the lights on and put your candle out. You're not ready yet. You want to know how to pump your brakes if it gets out of control? Turn the lights on, because you're going to do this in the dark. Nobody goes to the back room of the restaurant and all the freaking lights are on. Ambiance. Turn the lights off. We're candlelight dinnering. Okay? The situation room. I like that, Professor God. Fairy gang. Y'all already know. Okay? You should be inside of the circle. Good question, Erica. You should definitely be inside of the circle. It's the next thing. I like y'all question too. Anu, that's a good joint. Known and unknown of good intent. So I hear you, like, and that's kind of like that bridge that it gets where you gotta be willing to go there. We're not going to our gangsters for good intent. I want us to accept. This is where shadow work is so key. It's not all the time that everything that we experience or we want to get done is with good intent. So I'm just gonna keep it 100. I'm gonna keep it 100. It's been funny. Spirit is reminding me this, right? Totally unrelated. Don't try to lie to your spirits. Okay? Don't try to be like, I was, I just feel hurt, and I don't want anything bad to happen, but like, if you gotta go to your war room, this is why you don't introduce your goons to everybody. You don't, you know what I'm saying? You don't play with this. It's bad intent because it's bad news for whoever you are going to them about. It might be good for you because you'll be like, cool, I'm glad that's done with, that's dealt with, right? You have to be really mature in this space because it's the lack of maturity that gives the human race in itself like a bad rap. It's the lack of maturity that gives, or rather doesn't give, black magic the respect that it deserves. Like, I would never disrespect a black magician who is really well versed and practiced, not out of fear, but out of respect that they will have to manage a legion of spirits that don't give a fuck. That's like your old school teacher in a classroom deep in the ghetto where children have nothing to lose. They are sleeping with the stove on, and they gonna come get theirs however they gonna get it, and it's do or die. But when those students are in the class with that teacher, there's order. That teacher doesn't get to that place because they bullied the children. That doesn't work. That teacher has gotten to that place because they have mastery over organizing the energy in the room. They have mastery in understanding the genius of the so-called troublemaker and using that person's genius in areas where they can feel some level of reward. That's real life magic. Okay? So it's out of respect because the energies are wild, raw, and do not need to abide by our laws, which is why they're able to get certain illegal things done or get you out of certain things that you've done that are against the laws of the human earthly land. So it ain't technically good intent. But are you in a place where you can get out of the brainwash that every single situation in your life calls for love and light, forgiveness, and compassion? Can you have too much of that and not have a healthy place for where you put your sword in the ground and say, I dare you to cross this. You will not return. Okay? Um, and the obvious that is here is that nobody wants to live in that energy all the time. Not anyone who, like, even people who like to fight. Like, I know some of y'all knew growing up, I used to have a homegirl that it was like she opened her mouth up just to start a fight. Okay? At some point, even those individuals, they get tired because it requires so much energy. You see what I'm saying? Like, you got to think about the shadow part of those individuals who are constantly getting in fights and ending up locked up, is that even their spirit sits them down for a rest because they go back inside their cage where they got to return to another level of warfare where they got to be quiet. They got to now watch themselves because they're around others like them. So there's always this balancing act that happens. And the power of understanding, connecting with these energies is that you are willful about it. It's not just going to happen to you. Taking control with your own hands to understand, what is this? When will I need it? And don't wait till you need it immediately. Like, you should be cultivating a respectful understanding of what's going to be required on your behalf and in your environment for you to maintain that energy and how to clean it up. Because a lot of times, one of the biggest things that kind of gets funky is like, we want to have a great sex life. We want to have love and romance and sweetness. And that can kind of come down a lot. Or you can end up in this energy of the arguing and then having this passionate sex, but it's like, it's a trauma bonding type of like violence. And that too can get funny. So there's so many different nuances. There's a dance with this energy that you need to understand. There is you know what I'm saying, some people are excited by it, but even still, a warrior knows that male or female, you don't spill your seed before you go out into war, because that gene is very important in getting a victory. Okay? No weakness on the battlefield. Let me see. If I move with integrity, I can accept and implement all aspects of myself as needed. War is going to need the shadows aspect. And the only reason why we have a shadow aspect is because shadows are the part of ourselves that are not readily accepted by society. So we have programs in our mind that tell us that, like, it's not okay. That's even why Anu was like, the known and unknown with good intent. Like, that's a program. Not to put you out there, not to put you out on Front Street, but it's a program of like, I'm really a good person, but I gotta protect myself. No, I'm really a good person and I'm protecting myself, and you're violating my safety. Spirit of human being, you could get it. You see what I'm saying? So if you accept the wholeness of that, then there's no good or bad. It's and. It's good to look at and. Integrity, which I love that word, Professor Igad. I love that word because integrity means that you are at one. Like an integer, like you're not broken up into pieces. You are at one with your entire self. So when you realize that you need to act on protecting yourself or going to get what you desire, okay, then that's what you're doing, because you're being 100% honest with yourself. No, there's consequences, but when we're 100% sure, we can only be 100% sure when we're also willing to take the consequences. Like, that's part of, like, if I'm going to be the karmic retribution, then that's what it is. And I totally believe that, and there's no shakiness on that. I'm not waiting for life to happen. I'm going to take things into my own hands. Okay? Let me see. I'm an orphan on both sides and called my ancestors unknown and known who could help. And got my great grandmother's name shortly thereafter. She used to carry a hatchet and was known for cutting bad men. It's true. It's true. The biggest thing in dealing with these energies is your sincerity. Because you're not about to fool nobody. You be looking like Boo Boo the Fool if you think that you dancing around these spirits like, yeah, like I wanna I'm trying to get this bag because such and such is trying to get from me. No, like, if you are being like, you just want something, stop making up a story. Talk to them straight. Yo, I need to get this bread. I got this car I want, or I got this bill to pay. It doesn't necessarily have to be a dire situation. This is about spirits who are willing to go get that. Go get it done. They don't, you know what I mean? Now, if you are greedy, and you sending you out of balance, you deal with that. But they're not there to judge it, right? They just gonna do it. There's a whole system involved, including your physical self, that where the balancing and stuff happens. But you got to be willing to do the work, which is why I say you have to have a lot of discipline, because there's so many people that will step on your brand new white kicks, your Jordans, and expect you to just wipe them off. And when you retaliate, they're going to be like, oh, something's wrong with you. And there's going to be people who, because they see a video like this, or they know that you're watching stuff like this, or they see that you have altars, or they they see that something happened badly to someone that they know was talking about you, they will assume that you intended for these bad things to happen, or they will assume that because they got into an argument with you, or because they offended you in some way, that you go immediately to work with these energies. And if you had any sense at all, that wouldn't be the way you're moving. And if they knew the truth, they would know that that would not play out to your advantage for when you really need it, because that's corny. You actually will be over there losing plenty of energy to get things done. Some of your own life force has to go into rituals for things to get done. Even when you using things like sacrificing an animal, or you using things like praying and having a drink or having a smoke with your spirits, your presence there in that portal for you to actually travel and to connect is energy being expended. So don't think because you're sitting there and you didn't have to spill blood, you didn't have to, you know, you got all these table items that you don't, no energy is getting taken. Know that when you travel, energy is getting taken. So you also need to have good rest. Don't try to do this stuff exhausted. Um, because when you do, you will start to fade away. And the things that you're trying to do is kind of like having a broken wand. You ever see on Harry Potter when the wand is broken and they like try to do a spell, but it's messed up, right? That's similar to what's going to happen if your energy is depleting. So have a period of cleansing, have a period of building up your chi, have a period of just consistent meditation, doing your pranayama to build up your chi. Make sure you go to bed at a certain hour. Okay? Because when you get to working with these energies of the earth, you can end up feeling very tired if you're not taking care of your spirit. All right? Let me see. Can I use my room closet because I don't have anywhere else to commune with them? Yeah, that's perfect. It's going to be dark. Try to make a circle. If you can't make a circle in your closet, I would advise you to make a line in front of your closet door. And I'll put nine lines there. Let me see. Taking out handlers, vanquish parasites, step on them on purpose too. Fasting as a preparation is always good because it makes it easier for you to commune. But have yourself some good solid food afterwards. Like if you like, how I want to explain it. Right after, have yourself your meal. Unless like you want to go into this dream state. Fine. But the next day, eat heavy. Like you don't want to do a serious ritual where you get real strong contact. Do what you got to do. Give them what they asking for. Have it written and set up. And then you got to do it again the next day. Give yourself a break in between unless you're used to this. But eat heavy after that. And then like when you need to do it again. Okay? Does that make sense, Amenta? Like never eat like right before a ritual. That's not gonna work. Because you're gonna be just way too dense. Moyo said, wow. Yeah. In these books, they'll tell you something like, don't eat like 3 to 2 hours before. I'm like, if you're gonna do a ritual, and this ritual, like I said, do it at nighttime between 9 through 3 a.m. Okay, 9 p.m. through 3 a.m. You should not be still doing it at 3 a.m. You should be cleaning up already. Right? That's daytime. What I was telling y'all. Uh yeah. They'll be like, don't if you're gonna do a ritual at 9 o'clock, I wouldn't eat anything solid from like 3 in the afternoon. Like I'm done. I'm done eating. Because you want to give your body a full chance to clear out. So when you take that sip of your gin or your sip of your yak, that joint hit immediately. You can feel it. Okay? For those of you who are just now getting into wanting to commune with these level of spirits, another thing that is a medium of bringing them in is a song. A song. Now, I'm not trying to be funny, right? Like, this video is dumb long, but I'm not trying to be funny. But if the spirits, you already have a relationship with them before they had passed on, and they're not listening to traditional Egun music like that's in Yoruba or any other language, and they listen to gangster rap, and they got like favorite gangster rap they want to listen to, you should play that. Like, play that instead, because it doesn't make sense for you to bombard them with these sounds that aren't native to their spirit. Now, they'll be native to other spirits that are in your DNA, but as you're working your way back, if you have a relationship with certain energies, play their music. So if you already know they got a song, play their music. Like, word, Gaza, underworld gangster. Yeah. Everybody, like, it culturally has particular music for their gangsters. There are intonations even in gangster music that bring up that kind of energy. That's why when we listen to it, even the most like peaceful person, they feel like a gangster. Like, they get in the car and that energy is like, ain't nobody gonna step on me today, because there is a tone in it. The frequency of it brings up that warrior energy. And the most authentic connection with warrior spirits is where you feeling it too. You can't feel like mad peaceful and like while you're sitting there, because then that is not really what's happening. Okay, that's not it. Moya said Isley Brothers and Third World does it for hers, Earth, Wind, and Fire. So if you know them, right? That's what it is. There's certain messaging in the music. Like today, shouts out to my mother, Ibaye, Fabian Miranda. I posted on my IG on Fluid Life Global and on my Facebook. She had a hit called Prophecy. The bass line in that joint is legendary. The music itself, it wasn't cursing, it wasn't violent, but the tone of it hits you so hard. The message of making those who are responsible for the BS that you're experiencing as a people was so potent that they're like, nah, That song is not allowed in this country. And when I hear it, I feel the fearlessness. I feel the freedom to fight when I hear the music. So, like, the government is not stupid. They know how the music influences energy. So, whatever that music is, have it ready. And repetition is key. So, if you got that playlist that gets you in your joint where you ready, you know what I'm saying? You ready. Play that. And if you working with them, the thing is, some of y'all can sleep through it. If you get that energy busy in your house, you might not be able to sleep. So you can work with them and close it. The same way you open it is the same way you close it. Okay? But yeah, sometimes I let my joints rock out for the weekend because we're getting busy. But when you're just starting, you know what I'm saying? Come with confidence, groundedness, being centered, and be clear about what you're coming for. Okay? All right. Chain gang music. Things that just piss you off sometimes are even good. Word. Songs that remind you of the foolery that you've had to deal with. You need to like remember, like, no, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not dealing with this. Word. All right. So that's it for today. I know I hung out with y'all for a little bit long, but working with ancestors is something that I hold close. I do it on a regular basis. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section below after the video is done, and I will see about getting back to you. If you have any other concerns or issues, you know how to reach me. 202 810 1876. I do not do any consultations for free. And there will be some more tools for y'all available on the school website as well. Look out for that, dropping soon. And that's it. Peace, love, and bliss. Happy headhunting. I'll see y'all soon.